Billionaire wife calls cops on suspicious black dad. His true identity stuns her. When millionaires think their money can silence the pain of innocent families, they forget one crucial truth. Sometimes the very people they judge hold the power to expose everything. What happened at Rosewood Country Club's exclusive playground that Tuesday afternoon would shatter a billionaire's perfect world and reveal a secret that made headlines nationwide. The tattooed black father she tried to destroy. He wasn't who she thought he was, and her desperate 911 call would become the biggest mistake of her privileged life. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Victoria Ashworth adjusted her designer sunglasses as she watched her 7-year-old son Pearson climb the monkey bars at Rosewood's private playground. Everything was perfect in her world. The manicured lawns, the other well-dressed mothers chatting about charity galas, and the sound of privileged children playing without a care in the world. Then she saw him. A tall black man with intricate tattoos covering his muscular arms stood near the swing set, watching the children play. His weathered jeans and simple t-shirt stood out like a beacon among the country club's usual crowd of polo shirts and pressed khakis. Victoria's heart began to race, not from attraction but from pure instinctive fear. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice carrying the authority that came with a trust fund and a husband who owned half the city's real estate. "I've never seen you here before." The man turned, revealing kind eyes and a gentle smile. "I'm just here with my daughter," he said, gesturing toward a beautiful mixed-race girl who was laughing as she went down the slide with Pearson. "Your daughter?" Victoria's voice dripped with skepticism. She looked at the girl, light-skinned with curly hair, then back at the man whose dark skin was adorned with what looked like gang tattoos to her untrained eye. "Brittany. Sweetie, come here for a second," the man called gently. The little girl ran over, her face beaming with joy. "Daddy, can me and my new friend keep playing, please?" Victoria's mind reeled. This didn't fit her narrative at all. But then she noticed other mothers stealing glances, whispering behind manicured hands. Her reputation was at stake. "I think that's close enough," Victoria said, stepping between the man and her son. "I don't know what you're doing here, but this is not the time or place. You need to leave before I call security." The man's expression remained calm, but Victoria caught a flash of something in his eyes, disappointment, maybe even hurt. "Ma'am, I'm just here because my daughter wanted to play. We're members here." "Members?" Victoria laughed, the sound sharp and cold. "I know every member of this club. If you don't leave right now, I'll have security escort you out." "What's it gonna be?" As if summoned by her words, a security guard approached. Victoria felt a surge of satisfaction as the man gathered his daughter's backpack. "Come on, baby girl," he said softly. "Let's go get that ice cream I promised you." But Victoria wasn't done. The audience of wealthy mothers was watching, and she had a point to prove. "Next time, don't judge someone before you get to know them," the man said as he walked away. "I still don't understand," Victoria called out loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Did you adopt her or something? Not that it's any of my business, but..." The man stopped walking. When he turned back around, his expression had changed completely. "It's a shame," Victoria continued, emboldened by the attention from the other mothers. "Brittany probably would have had a much better life if she'd been adopted by her own people." The playground fell silent. Even the children seemed to sense the tension crackling through the air. "How do you figure that?" the man asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Victoria felt the eyes of every person at the club on her, and she was too deep to back down now. "Well, to start with, she would have a mother and a father, not a broken home. How do you know she doesn't have both?" Victoria gestured around the playground with a perfectly manicured hand. "Look around. What do you see? Mothers playing with their children. I'm sure if Brittany had a real mother, she'd be here with her today. Unless..." She paused for dramatic effect. "Unless she's working while you're just freeloading." Several mothers gasped. This was crossing every line of decency. But Victoria was riding high on her own sense of superiority. The man took a step closer, and Victoria instinctively moved back. "You seem to know everything about me, don't you? How would you like it if I interrogated you about your husband?" "My husband," Victoria said, lifting her chin defiantly, "is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. In fact, He just got promoted to vice president of the top construction company in the state. He's making 6 figures, so you don't need to worry about him. Mommy, Pearson tugged at Victoria's designer dress. Can me and Brittany get ice cream after we play? No, sweetheart, Victoria said, not taking her eyes off the man. I don't think you should be friends with her. Your father's waiting for us outside. We need to go. You don't have to take this out on the kids, the man said, his voice heavy with disappointment. As Victoria grabbed Pearson's hand and marched toward the club's exit, she felt victorious. She'd protected her family and made it clear that certain standards needed to be maintained at Rosewood. But as they walked past the ice cream stand, she couldn't shake the image of little Brittany's confused and hurt expression. What Victoria didn't know was that someone had been recording the entire confrontation on their phone, and the man she'd just humiliated wasn't just any father at the park. He was Marcus Williams, and her world was about to come crashing down. Marcus sat in his car for several minutes after loading Brittany into her car seat, trying to process what had just happened. His daughter's innocent questions about why they had to leave early cut deeper than Victoria's cruel words ever could. "Daddy, why was that lady so mean?" Brittany asked, her voice small and confused. "Some people just haven't learned how to be kind yet, baby girl," Marcus replied, catching her eyes in the rearview mirror. "But that doesn't mean we stop being kind to them." As he drove toward their favorite ice cream parlor, Marcus's phone buzzed with notifications. His business partner, David Chen, was calling. "Marcus, you need to see this," David said without preamble. "Someone posted a video of what happened at the club. It's already got 50,000 views." Marcus pulled over, his stomach sinking. In today's world, viral videos could destroy lives in hours. How bad is it? Bad for her, not for you. You handled it with complete grace. But Marcus, David paused. "I did some digging on this Victoria Ashworth woman. Her husband's company, Ashworth Construction, has been bidding against us for the Riverside Development project." The pieces began falling into place. The Riverside development was a $200 million mixed-income housing project that Marcus's company Williams & Associates Architecture had been designing for 2 years. It was more than just business. It was his dream to create affordable, beautiful housing for working families. "David, I want you to investigate Ashworth Construction's previous projects. Something about this feels deliberate." Meanwhile, across town, Victoria was having lunch at her favorite upscale restaurant when her phone started buzzing incessantly. Her best friend, Catherine, slid her own phone across the table with a grim expression. "Victoria, you need to see this." The video was horrifying. Victoria watched herself, seeing for the first time how cruel and entitled she looked. The comments were brutal, with people calling her everything from racist to classless. But what made her blood run cold was the timestamp. The video had been posted just 20 minutes ago, and it already had over 100,000 views. "Who is Marcus Williams?" Catherine asked, reading from her phone. "Because people in the comments are saying he's some kind of big deal." Victoria's hands shook as she Googled the name. The first result made her gasp. Williams & Associates Architecture, award-winning firm specializing in community development. The second result was worse. Marcus Williams named Architect of the Year by National Urban Planning Association. But the third result made her heart stop completely. Local architects' inspiring story. From foster care to building communities. Victoria clicked on the article with trembling fingers. And what she read made her realize she hadn't just insulted a random father at the playground. She'd attacked one of the most respected men in the city. The article revealed everything Victoria wished she'd known before opening her mouth. Marcus Williams hadn't just overcome a difficult childhood, he transformed it into a mission. Orphaned at age 8 and bounced between foster homes, he'd been adopted at 14 by an elderly black man who taught him that education and hard work could overcome any obstacle. Marcus had earned a full scholarship to MIT, graduated summa cum laude, and returned home to build affordable housing for families like the one he'd grown up in. His adoption of Brittany, a biracial child whose teenage mother had died in a car accident, had been widely covered in the local press as an example of how the cycle of foster care could be broken through love and stability. But the most damning detail was yet to come. Victoria's phone rang, and her husband Richard's name flashed on the screen. She answered with dread. "Victoria, what the hell have you done?" Richard's voice was tight with barely controlled fury. I've got 3 board members calling me about some video of you harassing someone at the club. Richard, I can explain? You humiliated Marcus Williams. Do you have any idea who that man is? Victoria's mouth went dry. I'm finding out. He's the architect for the Riverside Development Project, Victoria. The project worth $200 million. The project that could make or break our company. And thanks to your little performance today, I just got a call saying we're being removed from consideration for the construction contract. The restaurant seemed to spin around Victoria. Other diners were starting to notice her, some pointing and whispering. The video was spreading faster than she could have imagined. But Richard, he was just some man at the playground? Some man? Richard's voice rose. He's one of the most respected architects in the country. He's built schools, community centers, and housing projects across 3 states. And you accused him of being a deadbeat father, and told him his daughter would be better off adopted by her own people. Victoria felt bile rise in her throat. How was I supposed to know? You weren't supposed to know, Victoria. You were supposed to be a decent human being. The line went quiet for a long moment. When Richard spoke again, his voice was ice cold. I'm getting calls from every business associate we have. The country club is reviewing our membership. And Marcus Williams? He's not just pressing charges for harassment. He's filing a discrimination lawsuit against both you and the club. Victoria's perfect world was crumbling in real time. And she hadn't even seen the worst part yet. By the time Victoria returned home, news vans were parked outside her estate. The video had exploded across social media, spawning hashtags like Rosewood Racism and Justice for Brittany. Local news stations were running segments about racial profiling in elite spaces, with Victoria's face as the poster child for entitled bigotry. Inside her mansion, Victoria paced frantically, while Richard sat in his study, fielding calls from lawyers and PR specialists. The damage was spreading like wildfire through their social circle. Mrs. Ashworth, their housekeeper, Maria, approached hesitantly. There are reporters at the gate asking for comments. Victoria collapsed onto her Italian leather sofa. How had everything gone so wrong so quickly? Her phone rang again. This time it was her mother, Victoria Elizabeth Ashworth. Her mother's voice cut through the phone like a knife. I just saw the most disgusting video of my daughter acting like some common bigot. What is wrong with you? Mother, I was protecting Pearson. From what? A father playing with his daughter? A man who's done more for this community than our entire family combined? Victoria felt the last of her defenses crumble. You know about him too? Everyone knows about Marcus Williams, darling. He designed the children's hospital where your cousin volunteers. He built the community center where the charity gala raised money last year. He's been featured in Architectural Digest twice. The irony hit Victoria like a physical blow. She'd been supporting Marcus Williams's work for years without knowing it, writing checks to causes that funded his projects, attending events that celebrated his achievements. But mother, how could I have known? By not being a hateful person, her mother snapped. By not judging someone based on their appearance or their race. By acting like the Christian woman you claim to be on Sundays. After her mother hung up, Victoria sat in stunned silence. Outside, she could hear protesters gathering, their chants growing louder. Justice for Brittany. Justice for Marcus. That's when Richard entered the room with the worst news yet. Victoria, he said, his face ashen. I just got off the phone with our lawyer. Marcus Williams isn't just suing for discrimination. He's got evidence that suggests you knew exactly who he was when you confronted him today. Victoria's blood ran cold. That's impossible. Richard held up his tablet, showing security footage from the country club. The cameras show you taking a phone call just before you approached him. Our phone records show it was from Jennifer Morrison, from the planning committee. Victoria's mind raced back to the phone call she'd forgotten about in all the chaos. Jennifer had called to gossip about seeing that architect guy at the club with his daughter, mentioning how he'd been in the news recently. Oh God, Victoria whispered. It gets worse, Richard continued. Jennifer's already given a statement to Williams's lawyers. She says you specifically asked about the black architect and made several racist comments before you even approached him. The trap was closing around Victoria, and she was beginning to realize that her moment of prejudiced rage had been far more premeditated than she wanted to admit, even to herself. The next morning brought a fresh wave of humiliation. Victoria's face was on the front page of every local newspaper, with headlines like "Billionaire's Wife Caught in Racist Tirade" and "Country Club Confrontation Exposes Elite Prejudice." But the real blow came when Victoria turned on the morning news and saw Marcus Williams sitting across from the city's most respected journalist, giving his first and only interview about the incident. "Mr. Williams," the interviewer asked, "how did this confrontation affect your daughter?" Marcus's composure was remarkable, but Victoria could see the pain in his eyes. "Brittany asked me that night if there was something wrong with her, because the lady seemed so angry about us being together. She wanted to know if she should be ashamed of who she is." Victoria felt her heart shatter. This was someone's child, an innocent little girl who'd done nothing wrong. As her adoptive father, Marcus continued, "My job is to prepare her for a world that might not always be kind to her because of how she looks or who her family is. But I never expected that preparation to start at age 7, at a playground that was supposed to be safe." The interviewer leaned forward. "What do you want people to take away from this incident?" "That children are watching. They're learning from every interaction they see between adults. When we show them hate, they learn to hate. When we show them prejudice, they learn to judge. But when we show them love and acceptance, they learn that too." Victoria turned off the television, unable to watch anymore. But the damage was far from over. Her phone rang. It was the president of Rosewood Country Club. "Victoria, I'm calling to inform you that the board met in emergency session this morning. Your family's membership has been permanently revoked, effective immediately. James, please. Furthermore, we're implementing new diversity and inclusion policies, including mandatory sensitivity training for all members and staff. This incident has been a wake-up call for all of us." After hanging up, Victoria realized that Marcus Williams had done something remarkable. He'd turned her moment of hatred into a catalyst for positive change. But her reckoning was far from over. 3 days after the viral video, Victoria received a call that would complete her destruction. It was from Marcus Williams himself. "Mrs. Ashworth." His voice was calm but firm. "I think it's time we talked." They met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown that Marcus had helped design as part of an urban renewal project. Victoria arrived wearing dark sunglasses and a baseball cap, trying to avoid recognition. Marcus was already seated when she arrived, and he gestured for her to sit across from him. "Why did you want to meet?" Victoria asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because I want you to understand something," Marcus replied. "This was never about revenge for me. It was about making sure what happened to Brittany never happens to another child." Victoria looked up, confused. "I don't understand." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her a photo, a beautiful black woman holding a baby. "This is Brittany's birth mother, Angela. She died in a car accident when Brittany was 2. Before she died, she asked me to take care of her daughter." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know. Angela was my younger sister." The words hit Victoria like a physical blow. Marcus Williams wasn't just Brittany's adoptive father. He was her uncle, her blood relative. "My sister made mistakes when she was young." Marcus continued. "She got pregnant at 16, struggled with addiction, tried to get clean, but she never stopped loving Brittany. And she never stopped believing that family was more than just DNA." Victoria began to sob openly. Every cruel assumption she'd made, every hateful word she'd spoken, had been based on ignorance and prejudice. "The saddest part," Marcus said, his voice gentle despite everything, "is that we have more in common than you think. We're both parents trying to do right by our children. We both want them to grow up in a world that's better than the one we inherited." "I'm so sorry," Victoria whispered. "I'm so sorry." Marcus nodded slowly. "I believe you are, and that's why I wanted to meet with you today." He slid a piece of paper across the table. Victoria looked down and gasped. It was a withdrawal of all legal charges against her. "I'm dropping the lawsuit," Marcus said, "but I have conditions." Victoria looked up through her tears, hardly daring to hope. "You're going to use your wealth and influence to support diversity and inclusion initiatives in this city. You're going to speak publicly about what happened and what you learned from it. And you're going to make sure your son grows up understanding that a person's worth isn't determined by the color of their skin or the amount of money in their bank account." Victoria nodded frantically. "Yes, anything. I'll do anything. Most importantly, Marcus said, standing up, you're going to remember that every time you judge someone, there's a child watching and learning. Make sure they learn the right lesson. As Marcus walked away, Victoria remained seated, forever changed by the encounter. She had tried to destroy a good man based on her own prejudices, but instead, he had given her the chance to become a better person. The video of her racist confrontation would follow her forever, but so would the opportunity to make amends. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope for redemption. Epilogue. 6 months later, Victoria Ashworth stood before a packed auditorium, addressing the first annual Diversity and Inclusion Summit that she had funded and organized. In the front row sat Marcus Williams and 8-year-old Brittany, both listening as Victoria shared her story of ignorance, hatred, and ultimately redemption. I was raised with privilege, Victoria said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her admission. But privilege without humanity is worthless. I heard a beautiful little girl and her father, because I allowed fear and prejudice to guide my actions. Today, I'm here to make sure that never happens again. As she spoke, Victoria caught sight of Brittany whispering something to her father. Marcus smiled and whispered back, and Brittany's face lit up with joy. After the speech, as the crowd dispersed, Brittany approached Victoria with a drawing in her hands. "Mrs. Victoria," the little girl said, "I made this for you." The drawing showed 2 little girls, one blonde, one with curly hair, playing together on a playground under a rainbow. Victoria knelt down to Brittany's level, tears streaming down her face. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you." "Daddy says forgiveness makes the world prettier," Brittany said with the wisdom only children possess. "Do you think so too?" Victoria looked up at Marcus, who was watching the interaction with quiet dignity, then back at the little girl who had unknowingly changed her life. "Yes, sweetie," Victoria said, her voice thick with emotion. "I think forgiveness makes everything prettier." As they walked away together, the billionaire who had lost everything and gained her soul, the architect who had built bridges instead of walls, and the little girl who had taught them both about the power of love over hate, Victoria realized that sometimes the most expensive lessons are the ones that cost you everything you thought you valued, and give you everything you never knew you needed. The viral video that had destroyed her reputation would remain online forever, a permanent reminder of her worst moment. But it had also become the first chapter of her redemption story, proof that even the most privileged among us can learn, grow, and change. And in a world that often seemed divided by fear and hatred, that was the most beautiful architecture of all.